The Paris Villa bloodbath mystery in the opulent Paris suburbs of 1995. A Russian tycoon's family met a gruesome and chilling massacre that left 6 dead and a trail of secrets. 5 gripping chapters unravel this dark mystery, from the rise of Evgeny Polovoy, a timber magnate haunted by mafia threats, to the horrific night of February 27, when his Louveciennes villa turned into a killing ground. His 16-year-old son, Aleksei, confessed to the murders, driven by revenge against his abusive father. But doubts emerged. Could a teenager kill 6 alone? Forensic contradictions, missing documents, and Aleksei's retraction, claiming masked Russian killers forced him to take the blame, revealed a sinister plot. Evgeny's brother Dmitry uncovered mafia ties, only to be murdered in Belarus in 1996. His death echoing the same forces. In 1998, Aleksei, now 19, faced trial in Versailles, receiving a lenient 8-year sentence, leaving justice in question. Was this a family tragedy, a mafia hit, or a cover-up by a fearful system? Will the true masterminds ever be exposed? Chapter 1: Shadows of Success. In the glittering streets of Paris, a Russian tycoon built a fortune, but what shadows followed him from Moscow? The golden light of Paris in the early 1990s dances across the Seine, where the air carries the scent of blooming chestnut trees, fresh croissants, and the faint tone of exhaust from bustling boulevards. Cobblestone streets wind through the city center, lined with elegant Haussmann buildings, their ornate facades gleaming under the sun. A city of dreams for those who can afford its luxuries. The murmur of ambition fills the air, the ground polished by the footsteps of the elite. A stark contrast to the rusted echoes of a Soviet past left behind by those who now call Paris home. Among them is Evgeny Polovoy, a Belarus-born timber magnate whose rise began in the chaos of the Soviet Union's collapse. His path paved by connections with former KGB operatives and a relentless drive inherited from his partisan parents. The air hums with opportunity as billions flow westward, but beneath the city's sheen, a darker tension brews. A predator stalks the newly rich. What shadows followed Polovoy from Moscow? And what price would his family pay? The scent of paper and unease lingers. Paris, a glittering stage for a tale of wealth and danger. Evgeny Polovoy's rise. Evgeny Polovoy's story begins in 1952 in Belarus. The air thick with the scent of pine forests and resilience. His parents' wartime grit shaping a boy of resolve. By 1975, his ambition lands him in Moscow's elite Institute of International Relations. A rare feat for a provincial, the air heavy with the scent of chalk and competition. After graduation, he serves as a translator in Turkmenistan, the desert air sharp with dust and duty. Before joining the Soviet Societies for Friendship with Foreign Countries, where his charm wins over influential figures on Lubyanka's corridors. The air hums with whispers of opportunity as perestroika dawns and Polovoy pivots to business. His first venture fails, landing partners in prison, but KGB allies shield him. The scent of paper and secrecy marking his escape. In the early 1990s, he founds Interprom, a timber export company, the air thick with the scent of sawdust and profit as it grows into a powerhouse. Securing contracts in Europe and vast forest plots in Russia's north. Funds swelling in Western banks, a new life in Paris. By 1992, Polovoy reloads to France, the air rich with the scent of fine wine and freedom as he rents a luxurious villa in Louveciennes. Near Versailles, the mansion on Rue Chemin de Grèce, number 11, gleams with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. A cleaner Rolls-Royce parked in the driveway, a stark contrast to the faded red banners of his Soviet past. He brings his 16-year-old son, Aleksei, from Moscow, enrolling him in a prestigious in Mason's Lafayette. The air soft with the scent of blooming gardens, but tinged with unease. Polovoy's new wife, Lyudmila Shalamova, gives birth to a daughter, Natasha. The nursery filled with the scent of plush toys, a fragile innocence amid growing shadows. The air hums with the murmur of family life, but Polovoy's smile fades, he grows nervous. Suspicious, his laughter replaced by the scent of alcohol as he drowns his fears. A growing fear, Polovoy's fears take root soon after his arrival. The air thick with the scent of unease and cigarette smoke as he senses surveillance. At first, he dismisses it as French intelligence monitoring a Russian tied to ex-KB circles. A normal practice, the air heavy with the murmur of routine checks. But the scrutiny intensifies, the scent of danger growing sharper. In 1993, returning to Moscow, his car is fired upon near Sheremetyevo Airport. The air sharp with gunpowder and panic, a warning from unseen enemies. In Paris, a friend witnesses a chilling taste, a car forces Polovoy to stop. A man in jeans flashing papers, Evgeny muttering, "The mafia is after me." The air hums with dread as Polovoy, once the life of every party, retreats from his haunts, avoiding the barren nightclub where Russian crime lords now gather. What deadly force had followed him from Russia? Chapter 2: A night of horror, in a lavish Paris villa. A night of celebration turned deadly, but who wielded the fatal shots? The crisp night air of February 26, 1995, envelops the Polovoy villa in Louveciennes, where the scent of fine wine, roasted meat, and the faint tone of winter frost lingers in the Grand Salon. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the marble floors, the air humming with the murmur of conversation as Evgeny Polovoy, his wife Lyudmila Shalamova, and friend Olga Pavlova share a late dinner. A faded family portrait on the wall watching over them. Upstairs, 5-year-old Natasha sleeps in her nursery, the air soft with the scent of plush toys. An innocent calm amidst the gathering storm. 16-year-old Aleksei Polovoy, in a gray sweater, sits on a stool, his back to the group, his face tense after a recent argument with his father. The air heavy with unspoken resentment. Outside, the villa's elegant facade is shrouded in darkness. A rusted mailbox at the entrance, a tattered red banner flapping in the wind. A distant neon cafe sign glowing faintly, unaware of the horror about to unfold. Who wielded the fatal shots that turned this night into a nightmare? The scent of tension and dread fills the air, the villa's luxury a grim stage for a tale of violence and betrayal. The massacre unfolds, the evening shatters with a sudden pop. The air thick with the scent of gunpowder and panic as a body hits the floor. Aleksei spins around, his heart racing, to see his father, Evgeny, collapse to his knees, blood staining his shirt, a second shot ringing out. The air humming with the chaos of gunfire. Instinctively, Aleksei drops to the floor. The marble cold beneath him, witnessing Evgeny crawl toward the hallway. Clutching his head, as Lyudmila, attempting to rise from the couch, falls, struck by another shot. Seconds later, 2 or 3 more shots echo from the hallway. The air sharp with the scent of fear as a man in a black mask bursts through the glass door. Firing at Olga, still seated on the couch, the air grows heavier with the murmur of death. shattered glass and overturned furniture marking the violence, without showing blood. As 6 lives, Evgeny, Lyudmila, her parents Zinaida and Fyodor Stepanov, Olga Pavlova, and Slava Duragay, care extinguished in moments, the villa transformed into a killing ground. Aleksei's initial confession: the following morning, February 27, the air at the Versailles precinct is thick with the scent of paper and stale coffee. Faded paint peeling off the walls, a rusted heater humming softly in the corner. Aleksei, pale and trembling, sits in a faded chair, hands cuffed. His gray sweater stained with traces of the crime, the air hums with the murmur of officers in blue uniforms as they draft reports. Their faces set with grim determination. Aleksei, voice breaking, confesses, "I killed them all." He explains his monstrous act as revenge, his father's relentless abuse, beatings, and control, culminating in a final humiliation that night when Evgeny forbade him from seeing his girlfriend. The air heavy with the scent of resentment as he claims the others were mere witnesses to his rage. The air grows tense with the murmur of the recording device capturing his words. But the officers exchange uneasy glances. Something doesn't add up. Doubts in a new lawyer. Doubts creep into the investigation, the air thick with the scent of uncertainty and paper as the officers question Aleksei's story. Could a 16-year-old kill 6 people so methodically? The air hums with skepticism as forensic reports hint at inconsistencies, too many shots, too precise for a teenager, and the presence of suspicious break-ins at the villa after the murders, uncovered by journalist Catherine Hirol, suggest a larger conspiracy. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Dmitry Polovoy, Evgeny's brother, begins his own investigation, the air heavy with the scent of resolve as he rejects Aleksei's guilt. Back in Paris, Aleksei's initial lawyer, London, advises him to wait for forensic results. But a shocking discovery: London's friendship with lead investigator Madame Richter raises suspicions of bias. The air thick with the murmur of betrayal, Aleksei's family replaces London with top French lawyers William Bourdon and Henri Leclerc. The air humming with renewed hope as they demand a new reconstruction. Will the truth emerge, or is Aleksei a scapegoat for a darker force? Chapter 3: A masked conspiracy. In a Paris precinct, a confession crumbles under new evidence, but who orchestrated the deadly plot? The dim light of March 1996 filters through the grimy windows of the Versailles precinct, where the air is thick with the scent of old paper, stale coffee, and the faint tone of tension. Faded paint peels from the walls, yellowed maps of Paris are pinned haphazardly, and a rusted heater hums softly in the corner, casting faint shadows across the cluttered desk. Officers in faded blue uniforms gather around a worn table, their faces tense with uncertainty, the murmur of their voices blending with the creak of a wooden chair. Aleksei Polovoy, a 16-year-old held in a juvenile detention cell in Beauderic, has shaken the case with a shocking retraction after initially confessing to the murders of his father, Evgeny Polovoy, and 5 others on February 27, 1995. He now claims masked Russian killers forced him to take the blame. The air hums with tension as forensic inconsistencies and Aleksei's new testimony spark a chilling theory. In Moscow, Dmitry Polovoy, Evgeny's brother, digs deeper into a web of mafia ties. The air heavy with the scent of danger. Who orchestrated the deadly plot? And will the truth be buried by fear? The scent of paper and suspicion fills the air. The precinct a stark backdrop to a tale of conspiracy and dread. Aleksei's retraction and the first lawyer's betrayal. The air grows heavier with the scent of paper and shock as Aleksei retracts his confession during a visit with his mother in Derek. His voice trembling as he reveals the truth. Masked man, speaking Russian, forced him to confess under threat to his mother's life. The air hums with the murmur of this bombshell as it reaches his initial lawyer, London, who had advised him to wait for forensic results before speaking. But a disturbing discovery: London's close friendship with lead investigator Madame Richter, even living in neighboring compartments, raises suspicions of bias. The air thick with the murmur of betrayal as Aleksei's family realizes French justice might be inclined to keep the boy behind bars. London is replaced by top French lawyers William Bourdon and Henri Leclerc. The air humming with renewed hope as they demand a new reconstruction to test Aleksei's claims. The scent of paper and resolve filling the precinct as they challenge the narrative. The reconstruction of the crime. The reconstruction unfolds at the Polovoy villa. The air thick with the scent of damp grass and tension as investigators recreate the night of February 26, 1995. The villa's grand salon, once a place of opulence, now bears the scars of violent, shattered glass doors, overturned furniture, and a rusted candelabrum knocked over, without showing blood. Aleksei, escorted in cuffs, walks through the scene, the air humming with the murmur of officers as he recounts the horror: a sudden shot, his father falling, Lyudmila struck while rising, and a masked man entering to kill Olga. The air grows tense as the reconstruction reveals two killers acting simultaneously, one in the salon, another in the hallway, explaining the low single shot that killed Lyudmila and Olga's stillness during the chaos. The events unfolding in mere seconds. The air hums with the realization that Aleksei's initial confession was a fabrication. The scent of paper and truth lingering as the evidence aligns with his new story. Supporting the presence of accomplices, Aleksei's coerced involvement. The air grows heavier with the scent of dread as Aleksei details the killer's coercion. A masked man forced him to the study, the air thick with the scent of gun oil and fear as he was made to reload a rifle. His fingerprints and gunpowder traces planted to frame him, the air humming with the murmur of misfires caused by mismatched ammunition. The killers then used a pistol to finish the victims, forcing Aleksei to watch, ensuring he'd take the blame. The air heavy with the scent of manipulation as they searched for a red folder, Evgeny's business documents, before killing Zinaida Shalamova. The air hums with the investigators' unease as they realize the depth of the conspiracy. The scent of paper and danger filling the precinct as they face a chilling question: was this a Russian mafia hit? And will the authorities pursue the true culprits? Chapter 4: The Mafia's Reach. In Moscow, a brother's quest for justice uncovers a deadly mafia link, but will it cost him his life? The biting air of November 1996 sweeps through Moscow, where the scent of coal smoke, damp concrete, and the faint tang of vodka lingers in the narrow streets near the city's old Soviet offices. Faded red banners flap in the wind, a rusted Zhiguli car parked under a flickering street lamp. The air humming with the murmur of a city that never sleeps. Inside a sparse office, Dmitry Polovoy, Evgeny's brother, paces restlessly, the air thick with the scent of paper and cigarette smoke as he sifts through files. His face etched with determination. The murder of Evgeny and 5 others in their Louveciennes villa on February 27, 1995, has haunted him for nearly 2 years, and Aleksei's retraction, blaming masked Russian killers coerced his confession, has fueled Dmitry's resolve to uncover the truth. The air hums with tension as he meets with Moscow prosecutor Andrei Pochterov. sharing documents that point to a chilling mafia connection. In Paris, the Versailles precinct buzzes with unease, the air heavy with the scent of fear as French authorities grapple with the implications of Aleksei's new testimony. Will Dmitry's quest for justice cost him his life, or will the mafia's reach remain untouchable? The scent of paper and danger fills the air, Moscow a grim stage for a tale of vengeance and betrayal. Dmitry's investigation deepens. Dmitry's investigation deepens, the air thick with the scent of paper and resolve as he uncovers Evgeny's tangled past. The air hums with the murmur of past deals as he learns of Interprom's shady corporations. Evgeny, the sole owner, siphoned profits meant for partners, stashing millions in Western banks. The scent of betrayal lingering in the faded contracts Dmitry examines. Evgeny's paranoia, documented in the previous transcript, takes on new meaning, fake electricians surveilling the villa. A 1993 Moscow shooting near Sheremetyevo Airport, and a 1994 Paris chase where he told a friend, "The mafia is after me," all point to Russian crime lords. The air grows tense as Dmitry shares his findings with Posterov. The scent of cigarette smoke heavy as he reveals documents implicating mafia figures. The air humming with the murmur of a deadly conspiracy. Dmitry plans to travel to Paris to confront French authorities. The air thick with resolve as he vows to free Aleksei. Unaware of the danger closing in, Aleksei's coerced role. In Paris, the reconstruction's aftermath reverberates, the air thick with the scent of paper and unease as investigators process Aleksei's coerced role. The air hums with the murmur of forensic reports as they confirm the killer's manipulation, mismatched ammunition caused misfires. Explaining the use of multiple weapons, the air heavy with the scent of gun oil as Aleksei was forced to reload. Planting his fingerprints and gunpowder traces, the red folder, central to the previous transcript, emerges as a motive. The killer searched for it, forcing Zinaida to scour Evgeny's body and car before killing her. The air thick with the murmur of a calculated plot. French authorities, however, remain skeptical, the air heavy with the scent of reluctance as they cling to Aleksei's initial confession. Wary of pursuing a Russian mafia lead, the murmur of their voices echoing with fear of a complex international case. Dmitry's murder, the air in Moscow turns deadly as Dmitry's investigation reaches its tragic end. The scent of frost and gunpowder sharp in a Belarus field near Vitebsk on December 9, 1996, Dmitry's body is found, shot in the head, the air humming with the murmur of a mafia hit as investigators uncover a chilling clue. A neighbor spotted a Moscow-registered car near Dmitry's home, its occupants lurking for days before vanishing on the day of the murder. The air grows heavy with the scent of dread as the Vitebsk prosecutor links the killing to Dmitry's probe. The murmur of his final words to his mother haunting the case. "I have documents in a safe, copied and sent to 3 safe places." The air hums with the realization that the mafia silenced him. The scent of paper and unresolved justice lingering as Aleksei remains in prison. A pawn in a larger game, will the killers strike again? Or has the truth died with Dmitry? A verdict shrouded in doubt. Chapter 5. In a Paris courtroom, a verdict is reached, but does it hide a darker truth? The crisp air of March 1998 fills the grand halls of the Versailles Palace of Justice, where the scent of polished wood, paper, and the faint tone of tension lingers on the fourth. The courtroom's high ceilings echo with the murmur of spectators, their whispers blending with the creak of wooden benches. Faded portraits of French judges lining the walls, a rusted chandelier casting soft light on the proceedings. Aleksei Polovoy, now 19, stands in the dock, his gray sweater replaced by a worn suit. His face pale but resolute, hands clasped tightly, the air hums with anticipation as the jury prepares to deliver its verdict after 10 days of testimony, arguments, and revelations. Outside, Paris buzzes with spring energy, a distant neon cafe sign glowing faintly. But inside, the atmosphere is heavy with uncertainty. The massacre of 6, Evgeny Polovoy, his family, and friends still haunts the city, and Aleksei's retraction, Dmitry's murder, and whispers of the Russian mafia hang over the trial. Does this verdict hide a darker truth? Or will justice prevail? The scent of paper and unease fills the air. The courtroom a stage for a tale of doubt and hidden motives. The trial and French reluctance. The trial unfolds with intensity, the air thick with the scent of paper and tension as the prosecution presents Aleksei's initial confession. Fingerprints on the weapons and gunpowder traces, painting him as a vengeful son. The defense, led by Bourdon and Leclerc, counters with the 1996 reconstruction 2 masked killers, speaking Russian, orchestrated the murders, forcing Aleksei to take the blame under threat to his mother. The air humming with the murmur of forensic evidence, mismatched ammunition, planted traces, and the search for the red folder. The air grows tense as Catherine Harrell and Sonia testify to French reluctance. The scent of frustration heavy as they note the authorities' refusal to pursue Russian mafia leads. Fearing a complex case, the murmur of their voices echoing with the sentiment that it's easier to blame Aleksei than confront a larger threat. The verdict and sentencing on March 13. After hours of deliberation, the jury delivers its verdict, the air thick with the scent of paper and disbelief as they declare Aleksei guilty of all 6 murders. Gasps ripple through the courtroom, but the sentencing shocks even more: 8 years in prison. The air humming with confusion. If Aleksei committed such a heinous act, why only 8 years? If he didn't, why guilty at all? With 3 years already served, he could be free in a year. A compromise verdict that leaves everyone unsatisfied. The air heavy with the murmur of Bourdon's protest. This acknowledges doubt but avoids the truth. The air grows heavier as spectators whisper the French justice system, wary of tangling with the Russian mafia, opts for a simpler narrative, pinning the crime on Aleksei while signaling leniency, a tacit admission of uncertainty. A legacy of fear. The verdict leaves a legacy of fear. The air thick with the scent of paper and unresolved questions as the Russian mafia's shadow looms. Dmitry's murder in Belarus, tied to his discovery of the killer's identities, and the suspicious electrician surveilling the villa months before the massacre, point to a calculated hit. The air heavy with the murmur of a conspiracy buried to protect the guilty. Evgeny's fears, documented in both transcripts, were ignored, the scent of danger lingering in his past warnings: a Moscow apartment shooting, a Paris chase, and his avoidance of mafia haunts. The air hums with the realization that justice has been compromised. France, as Sonia suggests, avoids confronting Russian organized crime, preferring a family tragedy narrative. Has the mafia won, or will the truth one day surface? Aleksei, a pawn in a deadly game, remains in prison, the real masterminds untouchable. The scent of paper and unanswered questions haunting Paris as the city moves on. The villa's dark legacy, a silent reminder of justice unserved.
Don't scroll past. Hit like and subscribe if you're ready for the next twisted story.